We are talking about the resurrection of Jesus Christ, and a lot of people want to know, why would anybody talk about that? Well, if it actually took place, and if there's evidence, intellectual, historical evidence that would point a person to believe that you should believe that, force you to that conclusion, then you have a basis for resurrections and life after death and all that that's involved. And Jesus Christ would be the authoritative spokesman that would be able to speak about that. No other religious leader in history ever made such a claim as to conquer death, come back to life, and tell us about it. Now, Jesus Christ did. We're saying, though, did it happen in history? And we've been talking about the fact of, do we have accurate information in the New Testament documents, and how do we evaluate that? And part of it would also be, did Jesus ever claim that he was God? Mr. Nayland, do you think that Jesus ever claimed he was God according to the documents you've read?
This is a very complicated subject, but I'd say probably. But it's not something that I think I'm an expert in.
Okay. Dr. Montgomery, what do you think?
Oh, no question about it.
Give us an example from the documents.
Well, it seems to me you mentioned last week a passage in Mark chapter 2. Mr. Nayland has placed great emphasis on Mark as the first of the Gospels, so this would certainly be of significance to him. In Mark 2, which is the first description of a day in Jesus' public ministry, there is a paralytic lowered down through the roof, and Jesus says to the paralytic, "Your sins be forgiven." And the text says that the religious leaders standing around began murmuring, "Who can forgive sin but God only?" Jesus doesn't say, "Oops, you're perfectly right, slip of the tongue." He says, "Which is it easier to say, your sins be forgiven, or take up your bed and walk?" He says to the paralytic, "Take up your bed and walk." Paralytic does this and goes forth. And the account says, and as a result of this, people believed in Jesus, what he was claiming for himself. The logic of it was, of course, that no one could see whether the paralytic's sins had been forgiven. That wasn't a visible consideration. But they could certainly tell whether he was leaping around on his own two legs or not. And so Jesus, succeeding in the one, gave evidence of the other. And the obvious point of this at the beginning of the gospel is to say, this man was more than a man. At least he claimed to be more than a man, and people believed it on the basis of empirical evidence of what he did.
Okay, excellent point. Now, when some people talk about Jesus, they talk about Jesus as though only one person in world history has been claimed to have done miracles. Let me read one thing to you. Just indulge me for a second. In the first century of the Common Era, there appeared in the eastern end of the Mediterranean a remarkable religious leader who was said to have worked miracles, casting out demons, healing the sick, and raising a girl from the dead. His followers claimed that he was the Son of God. Accused of sedition against Rome, he was arrested. After his death, his followers claimed that he had risen from the dead, had appeared to them to prove that he lived yet, and then ascended to heaven. Now, who is this religious leader? Was it Jesus? No. It was Apollonius of Tyana.
Well, if you'll pardon my saying so, that is a reconstruction of his life to make his life appear very much like Jesus. There were some similarity of claims, but the parallelism is not that strong. Even if it were, however, the issue really is not whether one claims this, but whether one can back it up with sufficient evidence. Well, and in the case of Apollonius of Tyana, we have absolutely no primary source data to show that as a matter of fact he did those things, and therefore this is little more than a Father Divine in New York a few years ago saying, "I'm God." A few years later, a very tragic thing happened. God died there in New York.
Okay, if you don't like that one, most of what we know about a certain period of the Roman Empire...
It isn't that I don't like it, it's just non-historical.